So he's stoking that sort of reaction from Trump. And the more he does, and Trump then focuses on Illinois, the more that we get media attention on topics that we need media attention on, that the media here, the legacy media, just refuses to cover.
Welcome to another episode of Conservative Talk Chicago. I'm your host, Jack Novak. Along with my team, we post weekly episodes that include interviews and commentary, reviewing the most important political issues without the liberal bias of mainstream media. If you're as frustrated as we and feel that most mainstream news is disingenuous, then welcome to Conservative Talk Chicago. We welcome your questions, concerns, and ideas. Please send them by email to talktome@conservativetalkchicago.com. At this time, I'd like to introduce our special guest. She is a graduate of the United States Military Academy at West Point, class of 1987, and served as officer in the U.S. Army. After leaving active duty, she worked as a tax advisor and bookkeeper for small businesses, learning of and experiencing the burdens Illinois placed on business and taxpayers. She currently lives in Wheaton with her husband and family. She was a former Illinois state representative, serving DuPage County residents in the 42nd District from 2013 to 2019, and is known for being a longtime conservative leader, challenging the political establishment. She challenged sitting Governor Bruce Rauner in the 2018 Republican primary, running as a conservative alternate to the status quo. She is a principled fiscal conservative with expertise in Illinois pension, tax, labor, and education policy. She supports pension and tax reform and fights for government transparency and term limits. She is a vocal critic of Illinois' current, unsustainable budgetary practices. I could go on, but I think I've made my point, and it is time to hear from our guest. So without further ado, let me introduce Jeanne Ives, former Illinois State Representative, former gubernatorial candidate, and founder of the advocacy nonprofit Breakthrough Ideas. Welcome, Jeanne, to Conservative Talk Chicago.
Thank you so much for having me, Jack.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure, believe me. We don't have people come in here too often that give their life so willing like you to such causes. And Illinois is a state that needs as many patriots as we can get to take it back from JB and in the stupid way the Democrats are running the state. Mm-hmm. I hate to say that, but I really believe that. You can see it in the actions that's going on these days. And I know you've got a lot of ideas about that. I mean, most Illinoisans don't even know, they're not invested in a political arena, so they don't know what you're about. They only have a vague idea, of what Breakthrough Ideas is and what political advocacy is all about. Could you explain that to everybody, exactly what your organization is promoting and why it's so important that you continue?
Well, first of all, I got involved in politics to change policy because after all, that's what politicians do. They make policy. And when they stop making the policy that you want, you need to change them out. Mm-hmm. And it's not that hard. We're a representative republic, and you can vote out those folks when you disagree with their policies. So I first started on the Wheaton City Council, and of course, it was over a taxing issue. And I just thought, you know what? These guys aren't that smart. I'm going to go ahead and run for office. And it took me twice, but I did win my second election. And very shortly after that, I leveled it up to state rep because it only took one negotiation with the public sector unions to understand that all the power, when it actually comes to protecting taxpayers, you need to be in Springfield to effect. So as a state representative, I really wasn't involved in a lot of the personalities. I didn't really like the politics of it, but I really did care about policy. And so I dug in and tried to become an expert in the areas that I really cared about. And so that would have been transparency, like you said, the pension system. So I was one of the first legislators to refuse a state taxpayer-funded pension. Why? Because we're part-time legislators. We don't deserve to have pensions. And the pension system needs to be completely reformed. While I was there, you saw a movement to, we had Tier 1, we had Tier 2. Tier 2 was just beginning when I got there. They were already trying to mess with Tier 2 because they were saying it was unfair. We introduced Tier 3, which would have been a voluntary 401k style pension system. Guess what? That still has never been fully implemented. And so you don't have anybody taking it up. But it's pensions were a problem. I cared about. There wasn't an issue that I didn't care about, quite frankly. Now I'm actually known as a very, very much so as a cultural warrior, I would say. Mm-hmm. But, I didn't go there to change abortion law. Honestly, I understood where we were as a state on that particular issue. But while I was there, what did I see them do? Get more and more progressive about abortion. And that included taxpayer funding of abortion, which is one of the reasons that I ran against Bruce Rauner. So, going forward, I ran against Rauner, lost in that primary. Hopefully you can talk about that later.
We will talk about that later.
Yeah, great. And then I ran against, I was asked by Jim Jordan to run for Congress after Peter Roskam lost that seat in the midterms, Trump's first term. And I said, yeah, I actually do want to run that race against Sean Casten, who I think is one of the most despicable Democrat congressmen up there. I mean, he has denigrated and talked down to Republicans and conservatives his entire time there. He votes like Nancy Pelosi, whatever. So I ran that, but it was this 2020 election season. Mm-hmm. That was a disaster. I was not playing the COVID games that everybody expected. I saw it for what it was back then, and I lost. And I looked at that all and I said, look, I don't actually think that people like the policies that Sean Casten stands for. I think that people don't know what they don't know. And as somebody who had been involved as a precinct committeeman, I knew that voters are very busy. You have to distill down into like little sound bites or one sentences about how the games are being played against them. And so I thought, well, you know what, I'm going to go to my donors and see if they're interested in funding an organization that works on connecting the dots for voters so they make a better choice at the ballot box, or at least a more informed choice at the ballot box. And so I started Breakthrough Ideas, and we're in our 6th year of operation, which I'm really thrilled about.
Wow, yeah.
And we're there to essentially, again, talk about policy and connect dots for voters. And we do that in a variety of ways. So we knew that being on social media was going to be important. Having a really great graphics artist come up with memes that can encapsulate one concept on a policy so people could easily digest it. We work with individual candidates. We work with individual townships. We try to defeat ballot referendum. One of the first fights that we took on was trying to defeat the mental health board that was going into Milton Township. Actually, we only had about 3 weeks after our start where that was coming up for a vote. And we got right to it and nearly defeated that. In fact, on the day of, we did defeat that mental health bill, but then vote by mail swamped it. But I think we could have defeated that had we had a long time, time. So that's what we do. We work against referendums because the taxpayers pay enough already in the state. We work with candidates because we're a 501c4, which means we can spend up to 50% of our resources working directly in politics. And that was by design because I knew that I couldn't stay out of politics. Having been in politics, I understand where the push needs to go. You have to actually push people to candidates. And so we knew we weren't going to just be purely a C3 policy group. And then we've always done sort of Facebook Lives, that type of thing. I put out a newsletter that, well over 10,000 people open it up every single week and read it. And that's from across the state and even other places in the country. And so we've kept that up. That's a very popular thing that we do. And we started a radio show. So we've been on WIND 560 for about well over 2 years now. And our new radio show.
What time's your slots?
Yes, our new radio show is Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. on AM 560 WIND Chicago. For
1 or 2 hours?
It's just 1 hour. Okay. So we pack a lot into that 1 hour.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I really do like that. I think that we're able to reach a broader audience by doing that.
And what is your access through social media? Is it just Facebook, or are you on TikTok and X?
We have it all. We do have it all. We have X. The X account for Breakthrough is sort of in its infant stage. So I really post a lot at my own. It's at Jeanne Ives. Our Facebook, we have Breakthrough Facebook page. I also have a big political page that is still out there operating. I post there. I have a personal page. We have a YouTube channel, Instagram, TikTok. So we do have all of those. And I have a social media director that essentially manages a lot of that.
I got to find out more about that. I haven't paid attention until recently with social media with this endeavor. And so I'm kind of a newbie as well when it comes to that stuff. So I've got people that kind of point me in the right direction. So I need some help. So I'm going to ask maybe even your social media director to give me some pointers.
Okay.
And point me to I'd like to see what you're up to. That sounds interesting.
One more thing, Jack, though, in this realm, which I thought was really important, and maybe it was because it was the COVID area where nobody was getting together, but actually I thought about this a long time ago. We needed to have events where people could gather, exchange ideas, listen to top speakers on particular issues, and learn, just absolutely learn. So we've been hosting events every single year, not just an annual dinner or something like that, but actual policy events on education, on immigration. We had, in fact, the current member of the Border Patrol, the former head of the Border Patrol, and I think he's currently the head of the Border Patrol. We had Rodney Scott on to talk about illegal immigration in 2024, just ahead of the election. So we've had some really great people come in and discuss things.
Is this mostly online or on radio, or you have it in person as well?
No, we do in-person events. We like to do in-person events. We think that's really important to build community, and so that's what we do.
Oh, keep me informed on that.
I will.
I'd like to come.
Absolutely.
As an Illinois State Representative, you built a reputation as a principled fiscal conservative with deep expertise in Illinois pensions, tax, labor, and educational policy. You were also an early, consistent critic of Illinois' unsustainable budgetary practices, supported pension and tax reform, fought for government transparency, term limits, and advocated for school choice. While in office, you cited the need for structural reforms. What exactly were those reforms you mentioned that prompted you to decline participating in the state's taxpayer-funded pension and group health insurance programs? And have any of those reforms you fought for ever been implemented?
Yeah, no.
No.
Short answer is none of the reforms that I fought for have been implemented. So first of all, we should have been at a 401k pension system and then actually for public safety, give them a hybrid. Okay, that's what the military has right now. The military, well over a decade ago, went to a hybrid program where you have something that's a little bit of a defined benefit pension, and the rest is you put it into your own personal account where you manage it, right? And we need to do that. What is so special about our police and fire that's different from the military? And everybody else needs to be in a 401k program, which is what the taxpayers have. There's no doubt about it. And the fact that we haven't moved to that, when we have the worst pension unfunded liability in the entire country and the highest property taxes at the same time, these people aren't listening. They just think that the gravy train is going to continue, and at some point, it's not. It's going to stop. You have Chicago pensions, 18% funded. You have Harvey, the city of Harvey, which is actually something that I'd like to go into a little bit. So the city of Harvey just recently passed a resolution saying that they are under financial distress and they want the state to take over their finances. Really? And in doing so, they said, and by the way, we wouldn't mind $30 million from state taxpayers to help us out here. Now, the interesting thing is back in 2018, when I was still a state representative, Ted Dabrowski and I went to the city of Harvey and stood with one of the trustees and another resident, and they wanted a way to renegotiate their contracts. So a municipal bankruptcy pathway. It didn't have to go all the way to municipal bankruptcy, but they need to have a pathway to renegotiate those contracts. That was in 2018. Well, they held on just long enough until COVID money started flushing into their system, which is what happened. But now all that money has dried up. And so what do you have now? They literally passed a resolution about a month or two ago saying that they cannot handle their debts. They're laying off police, they're laying off fire, they're laying off city workers. Their pensions are 18% funded. Who's picking up that dime?
No kidding.
And they are the canary in the coal mine for where we are. So these are the things that I highlighted throughout my time as a state rep. And some of the other forms like budget reform should be limited to actual growth and inflation. And it's not. Under Governor Pritzker, for example, you've seen a 37% increase in 7 years in the budget, $15 billion. It's unbelievable. It's like that $55 billion right now. When I was in the State House, and he He came he took office in January of 2019, the same month that I left office, okay? And when I left office, we were dealing with general revenue budgets of around maybe $36 billion, something like that. $55 billion now.
Right.
Yes, no. So they haven't done anything in terms of that, and they've just accelerated the spending, and then all the federal COVID money just fueled that and fueled the new programs going on. So there's been no restraint whatsoever on them on the spending side. There's no transparency on how this is done. If anything, there's less transparency on how your money is spent at the State House.
The funny thing is, you mentioned two important issues that I just latched down to very quickly. One is our military, our federal government recognized 10 years ago that the current system was unsustainable. Mm-hmm. So they went to the 401k to make sure they can stretch the dollars and make it fundable. That basically is unsustainable. That's the first thing. Second thing, as you said, we've got a canary in the coal mine. Harvey is just the first city to go through this transition. Who's next? How many more are there going to be?
No, I mean, and people can't believe Governor Pritzker and what he talks about. Like, I've got all these balanced budgets. Well, the truth is, no. When it comes to pensions, of the $55 billion, over $11 billion only goes to the pension system. And that system is underfunded by $5 to $6 billion every single year based on actuarial numbers. Mm-hmm. So they have these statutory fake numbers that they've written into the law, which says that you, out of your budget, have to provide X amount of dollars. But the actuarial numbers, the ones where the actuaries sit down, they look at all of the history and the interest rates and the experience level of everybody and who's going to die when, and they figure it all out. We're underfunding it by that actuarial number of $5 to $6 billion.
So they want more people to die, so the...
Yeah.
That's funny. When I think of actuarial tables, I think about death rates, right? At what point people die and how they're sustained on the system.
Right.
That's a poor way to manage.
Yeah. So.
Wow. That's funny. Well, you know what? You ran, for governor, in 2018.
I did.
Against Bruce Rauner.
Yeah.
And I understand.
That was a great race.
It was kind of close, wasn't it?
It was very close. It was a very close race. We scared him.
You should have. You ran on a platform of fiscal discipline, accountability, reform within the only Republican Party. You were that other candidate for the primary. Former Bruce Rauner, he might even be considered instrumental in the current Illinois sanctuary state fiasco we're dealing with right now, because it was during his tenure we became a sanctuary state. I can only wonder how Illinois would have fared differently had Rauner lost to your candidacy.
Well, I think it would have been one hell of a race, honestly, because if I had beaten a sitting member of my own party, it would have been historic. Maybe in the last 50 years, that's happened 3 times. Mm-hmm. So that would have garnered a lot of national attention at that time. I think that we would have had a really good chance against Pritzker in his infancy. Granted, he had a big checkbook, but we had garnered a lot of attention at that point. I think this race would have been nationwide watched. And listen, I ran against Rauner on 5 issues, and I ran a commercial about it, and people just got up in arms, and they had their panties in a knot. They couldn't didn't like it. And now you look forward 8 years, and people were like, oh, her commercial would have been just fine. So I ran on 5 issues. The first issue was that with that education funding formula change, Rauner literally signed legislation that bailed out the Chicago teacher pension funds and put it on the backs of state taxpayers. So Chicago Teacher Pension Fund is a separate fund. They are a separate fund. Mm-hmm. In 2000, when Paul Vallis left as the head of CPS, their pensions were 100% funded. Within 13 years, they were down to 50% funded. Why? Because they had skipped all those payments. They just decided, we're doing great. We don't need to add anything to the pension system. When I was a freshman legislator in 2013, a bill came to the floor that would have allowed Chicago public schools to skip the next 3 years of pension payments. And I knew that the Democrat sponsor of that bill knew that this was a bad idea. So we frantically researched and found that, sure enough, a year ago in a Daily Herald interview, she said that she regretted her decision to allow for a pension skip. I read her words back to her on the House floor, and the bill failed.
Congratulations.
And the Senate was looking for that bill. And I heard from them, and they're looking for, where's that bill? Where's that pension bill? Of course, this is all happening on the last couple days of the entire session. There's all this hurry up and wait, and we got to get this bill through. And CPS needs this, reason not to spend $200 million on pensions, and we got to get this through. And when they were told it failed in the House, they couldn't believe it. But we killed the bill simply because we did our research. I did my research. I said what needed to be said, and that bill died. So then Chicago pension systems, fast forward, they don't want us to pay their $200, $300 million normal cost. And so as part of the deal on the education funding formula, they got the state taxpayers to pick up their normal cost. So that's their yearly cost towards their pension obligation, which, now it's like $500-600 million that state taxpayers are paying for Chicago teacher pension funds when those teachers themselves only put 2% into their fund.
That's it?
Only 2%. The rest of the state, teachers have to put in 9%. So it's wholly unfair. So we ran on that issue. The next issue we ran was taxpayer funding of abortion. Rauner, by his signature, signed onto taxpayer funding of abortion. And the majority of people in the state of Illinois, they may be okay with safe, legal, rare abortion, first trimester. They do not want taxpayer funding of abortion.
Yeah, people from other states are coming here now.
Yeah, they're coming from here every now. And what folks should understand is that in Illinois, our Medicaid system, if you present as pregnant, there is a presumption of eligibility for Medicaid without verification that you actually live in our resident of the state and a citizen. So you come in, you have some friend's address. You say, I live here. I'm pregnant. I want to be on your Medicaid. And then you go to the abortion clinic, and guess what? We pay for abortions now for women on Medicaid. So it's a game. So I ran against that. Issue number 3, Browner signed and made us a sanctuary state. What did you have just a couple years ago? You had aldermen in the city of Chicago literally wanting to repeal their sanctuary state status. So I was right about that. Okay. The other issue that I ran on is Rauner signed willy-nilly transgender birth certificates where you could just change it with some psychologist from another state even declaring that, yes, you are the opposite gender that you are. We used to actually have a process where you had to have gone through some sort of medical procedure, and it had to have been signed off by a doctor if you wanted to legally change your sex. And no, he just said willy-nilly, go ahead, change your sex, whatever you want. And so we ran against that. Because what Republican governor does that? And by the way, now fast forward 8 years, everybody's mind is changing on the trans issue. Everybody's mind is changing. They know this is extremely stupid and harmful. And the last issue we ran on was he bailed out Exelon. He bailed out Exelon, a company that had made $2 billion before. He gave them a $2.1 billion taxpayer subsidy for the nuclear plants. Now, I'm in favor of nuclear plants. I just didn't think that we needed to bail out a $2 billion company, who, by the way, Exelon goes on to sell all of that to Constellation and got rid of their nuclear plants after we had supplied them the money with it, to shore up their balance sheet or whatever. And what happened in that deal? What do we know about that deal? We know that Mike Madigan and the 4 ComOd people, that is part of the dirty deal that they are sitting in prison for. And yet, Jeanne Ives is too radical for the Republican Party, vilified by most Republicans. And I'm sorry, but I don't think your township supported me at all.
Probably
they did
not.
No, they did not. And too hot to handle, too bad. Because 8 years forward, I was right on every one of those issues.
Well, you certainly got my respect, Jeanne.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody who's willing to stand up for these issues and has a good common sense to know what the right side of these issues are. I mean, everything you just told me just now about Bruce Rauner makes me think the guy's a Democrat.
Well, his wife certainly was, and she influenced a number of decisions. One of the decisions she influenced was whether or not if you were a doctor, you had to refer for abortion if you didn't want to do it yourself. And that particular bill that he signed off on, he had consulted with his wife just before signing it. And that bill is still in litigation at the appellate court level. Still, and we're talking 8 years later.
So, yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So that he's done a lot of harm.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And then he famously tried to give away his position on the ballot to 4 different people. And so he ran almost no campaign against Pritzker. And then he left and went to Florida.
What's this about for giving you 4 positions away? What?
He literally called 4 people up and said, will you run on the ballot instead of me?
Really?
You didn't know this?
I did not know that at all, Jeannie.
Yes, of course. Yes, he
Oh,
did.
my God. Who did he call?
I believe Todd Ricketts was one of them, but there were 3 others, yeah.
Okay.
Might have been Leslie Munger, I'm not sure.
Jeannie, there are so many issues that concern conservatives now in Illinois, the result of which has been exodus of taxpayers and businesses leaving the state, being replaced by non-tax-paying, government-dependent illegals. Where do you really see Illinois heading? It doesn't sound good based on what we said. I mean, if we can't defeat the liberal ideology that's currently plaguing Illinois governors, what's going to happen to us?
Well, first of all, I do think that that's a big concern. You can become a 90-10 state like Rhode Island, which is nearly unrecoverable. The good news is that even though we have extremely gerrymandered districts, which is why the Democrats have supermajorities in the House and the Senate and in the State House, and why out of 17 congressional districts, Republicans only control 3, the gerrymandering is a problem. But overall, when you do look at the election, look, Governor Pritzker didn't even get 55% of the vote in 2022. So there's an opportunity here. And then actually Donald Trump got more votes than Governor Pritzker did. In 2024, Donald Trump got more votes than Pritzker got in 2022. So the votes are out there. And I think Donald Trump has woken up a lot of people to the truth. And we needed that sort of national language, that national talk to come in and show other people that what is actually happening, what policies are in place. And so I'm a little bit hopeful that because Pritzker has become Donald Trump's nemesis and he likes that conflict to be on full display because he thinks it's a winning issue for him, I guess, in the 2028 presidential cycle. So he's stoking that sort of reaction from Trump. And the more he does, and Trump then focuses on Illinois, the more that we get media attention on topics that we need media attention on, that the media here, the legacy media, just refuses to cover. So we're kind of in this spot where there's an opportunity with the right candidate. And I think we're really one big Minnesota fraud scandal away from JB Pritzker being in even worse shape. And trust me, that is out there because one thing that our organization has been doing before Doge was Doge. And honestly, I want to give lots of props to Adam Andrzejewski. I mean, his open the books was Doge before Doge, right? And he did that on the backs of Senator Coburn from Oklahoma, who always put out his waste list every single year. So people have been doing this for quite a while. But when you come forward on that issue, I looked at the budget in 2024 and I said, I've seen this budget before. It's always slapped together. It's at the last minute. You get handed it with 2 hours to review, 3,000 pages or whatever.
We're talking about the Safety Act now.
But the budget, when I was in the legislature, it was broken down into about 5 different appropriations, maybe a BIMP bill as well. So maybe it's 5, 7, or 8 bills made up the budget. So more biteable. But then under Pritzker, they just became these massive documents where everything was dumped in it. And I finally started looking at this a little more closely in 24, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. And so I was working with some state legislators down there. I said, I hired an intern for the summer. I said, I want you to go through the 3,389 pages of the budget, and I want you to find all the non-for-profit grants, and I want you to build me a Google spreadsheet, list them out. Well, only until she did that work and then alphabetized it were you able to see things like the Irish American Heritage Center is getting $500,000 in the budget. Why? The Indo-American Center is getting over $14 million on 10 different grant lines. What do? It's just a bogus NGO. The Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights is getting $42 million. And they are behind every anti-Trump, anti-ICE protest that you find with their printed signs and their ICIR logo on it. And there they are at every they are an activist group. They're not an NGO. They're an activist group.
Why are we paying them anything?
Anything. Look, we found billions of dollars going to nonprofits. And some nonprofits are good. I'm just going to say, like the ones that help with developmentally disabled.
Yeah, Red Cross even.
Absolutely. Yeah, but you know what? The thing about Red Cross, because it's the Red Cross, it's the YMCA, it's the Boys and Girls Clubs, it's the whatever one else. There's other ones too. These are national NGOs, national ones with big donor bases to gate. Why am I giving them money? I'm sorry. I don't think the state budget should give it any money.
Are they getting money from the state budget?
No, we're not. Okay. My NGO gets nothing. And I would never ask either. But people start these things like they have their idea, like Maddie's Mitten March. That was one that I highlighted. What's Maddie's Mitten March? It's a secondhand resale shop in Aurora that got $320,000 of taxpayer money so that they could purchase a new building. Why? You started your nonprofit. Go ahead and raise money for your nonprofit. Why do I have to invest in it?
Are you an NGO? Breakthrough Ideas?
Yes, we're a non-governmental organization. We're an NGO, a nonprofit,
You're not
whatever.
Getting money from the state, are you?
Oh gosh, no, never. That would never happen. I would never ask.
Exactly.
But this is going on and on. There's thousands of NGOs getting billions of dollars from state taxpayers, and it needs to end.
It sure does. But it needs to be brought into the light. As
yes.
you said, you had 3,389 pages to go through, and everything's kind of buried in there. They say, we're transparent. Here's the budget.
Right.
Good luck reading it and finding it. You got to pay somebody to do that and give them all the time in the world because it's so complicated. I mean, they're hiding things in plain sight because it's so complicated. That's what needs to be done, and then people have to be made aware of it.
Yeah.
And that's what you're doing.
Well, so at Breakthrough Ideas, you can go to our Breakthrough Ideas. We have certain stories up on particular NGOs that we've picked out and kind of done some research on. But we also, for the FY25, which was done in 2024, passed in 24, and the FY26 budget, which was passed last year in 25, both of those budgets and their grants are all, and the whole listing of it is on our website. You can go to dogeil.com. dogeil.com, and you can look at all that stuff and you can research it yourself. And you can look at the ones that are in your neighborhood and getting money. And like, why are you getting state dollars? I don't agree with any of it. And I get a little bit, I'll get a little pointed here, but this whole Darren Bailey, Aaron Dalmar, like they're Doge Illinois now. It's like, where were you guys? I've been doing this for well over 2 years. I'm on my third year of doing this. And you put up some sort of slick meme and you think that you know what you're doing. It's very annoying.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
But the most important,
because they haven't done anything.
Well, the most important thing is you have done something.
Yeah, absolutely, we have.
Bringing it to light. And when you talk about state dollars, well, this is where I take offense because it's not state dollars. It's my tax dollars.
That's right.
It's your tax dollars. It's our money being wasted. Okay, and we have nothing to say about it because it's done in plain sight in the dark because of the complexity of the budget, hiding the stuff where you can see it if you spent the time, but you got to spend weeks to try to find the information. It's so complicated.
That's right.
So, wow. You shared a lot. My God, I'm actually surprised about all the stuff that you brought to light just now because I wasn't aware of half the stuff.
Okay, and
that means that if I'm not aware of it and I'm involved for 30 years in politics, how many of the people who join us aren't aware of it? So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So I'd like to thank our guest, Jeanne Ives, staunch Republican and founder of Breakthrough Ideas, for joining us today and sharing her perspectives and efforts on behalf of Illinois residents. If anybody wishes to contact Jeanne, support her efforts, share your concerns, or just exchange ideas, she can be reached through our website at breakthrough-ideas.com. That's breakthrough, one word, -ideas.com. Thank you for joining us, Jeanne.
Thank you for having me, Jack.
It's been my pleasure. And as a special thank you to all our viewers, we look forward to continue bringing you interesting conservative information and perspectives. Thank you and goodbye.